It is possible you think, perhaps, that I am against travel. After all, I have voiced several times how happy I am to remain in the city of Altdorf and not travel too much, but actually, that is far from the truth. I, in the safety of a good coach or a good barge, believe travel essential to the soul, especially the adventurous one. Yes, how can anyone be a true adventurer if you do not go out and travel? It is very important, I feel. So while there are many dark dangers out there, if you travel with Sigmar's light, if you travel believing yourself to be serving his will, then I assure you, you will find no greater purpose in this world. And even though I do not consider myself an adventurer, I respect all who do so. So, if you are thinking of travelling the Empire, do so with a stout heart, and remember, as long as you do things in the name of Sigmar himself, nothing will harm you. Well, apart from the occasional wanton beast. But again, if you are true to Sigmar, you shall be fine. This is Red Moon Role-Playing. 4 more days pass on the canal, as your boat, the Beribel, makes its way slowly down towards the town of Bogenhafen. The journey isn't as slow as it could be. There is a little bit of speed compared to before, especially on the first day. Captain Josef is a little concerned with what's been going on after all. And so you make your trips to the next few little fishing villages very quick, and try to get to Bogenhafen as quickly as possible. However, after the second day, when there are no ambushes, no mysterious men in the night with crossbows, no goblin attacks or beastman raids, the sense of urgency does die down a little, at least among Josef and his crew, maybe not so much with our brave travellers. But the truth is, after 4 days, nothing happens. Everything is as it should be. Tell us, Kruger Hoffman, what do you think you would have been doing during these 4 days, and how do you think you would have been feeling from that first night of perhaps anxiousness to this 4th day of everything seeming fine?
Yeah, the first night and of course the time after we had left, I was fully focused on keeping track of what was happening at the shoreline, making sure that there was no one there, that they weren't following us. I mean, I was convinced that they were right behind us and that they would ambush us in the night somehow. So I don't think I slept much that first night. But then, after a while, when you are on alert and you just waiting to be attacked, you just start to lose focus. And eventually it started to fade. And somewhere around the 3rd night, I suppose, I was able to mostly put it behind me, figuring that we had outrun them, we had been able to get away. So I tried to make myself useful on the boat, tried to pick up some new skills and try to earn my keep. It was a way to keep my mind off of the people who were after me, who were after us. And I guess it mostly worked. But somewhere there, at the back of my mind, I remain convinced that we are being watched, that they're out there, and that once we get to Bogenhafen, they're going to find us. I have to be ready for that.
And what of you, Heinrich Schiff? How have your last 4 days been?
I want to say it was the same level of being on edge that Kruger experienced, but taken in a different direction. He has nerves, but I live for this. This is why I left my town. This is where I practice my craft, and that is an incredibly naive position to have, but I don't know that yet. So, with minor interruptions for our stops at fishing villages, the occasional small amounts of boat work that need to be done, teaching Kruger for the 7th time how to tie a sheep shank, in the moments between that, it's mostly dueling practice. Of course, there are no foes. None of the people on this boat know how to spar in the method that I am learning, but it'd be a lot of time on the deck, opening up my dueling manual, reading through a few paragraphs, and then going through those motions just on whatever spare amount of deck I have.
And you'll find the training helps, as always, and again, it does feel good to be out on the boat. Quiet out here, a lot of time for introspection. What about you, Siegfrieda? 4 more days on a boat, and on this leg of the journey, not much actual work to do, even though you're being paid. Not much work to do at all.
Yeah, this is very much a change of pace for me. Back home, I guess, it always seemed like there was something to do, something to mop up, or chop up, or haul away. And, well, quite the contrary. The past few days have given me a lot of time to think about where we're going. And the last time I was there, which was when I was, well, basically an infant. I don't have any memories of the place that are my own, really. Everything that I think of when I think of Bogenhafen is fueled, supplemented by what I've read about the place. And I have been reading about the place somewhat obsessively. I always keep a few books on my person. What essentially amounts to an encyclopedic travelogue of Reichland being one of them, next to my medical journals. And I don't know how many times I've read about Bogenhafen in this, the last time this book was updated, which was probably some years ago. It's no doubt completely out of date now. Nevertheless, I read it, I reread it. I want to make sure that we aren't arriving in a place we feel is foreign to us and dangerous, although there's undoubtedly going to be danger there. And of course then there's the personal aspects, the reason that I was born there but did not grow up there. I am confident, especially as I stare into the distance as we sail along slowly down this river, that I'm not going to run into someone who recognises me. I mean, hells, I was 4, maybe 5 when I left. I don't know my exact age, to be truthful, but it's still unsettling that I may cross paths with people who know my family, who did know me as an infant or know of me, and will just stare straight by me as if they don't know who I am, because they won't. And so those thoughts have been rumbling around in my mind quite a lot, only occasionally replaced with the fact that these people with crossbows, these hired killers, these purple hands, or whatever they happen to be, they're not going to stop. They are on our trail for reasons real or imagined. And we are going to face them again, and I'm not really looking forward to that prospect.
Certainly not a pleasant one. But yes, you are at least able to distract yourself with those histories. And again, while none of it's very recent, the town of Bogenhafen does actually have a little bit of historical note. Several things happening all the way dating back apparently to minus 3,750. I see. So almost 2,000-3,000 years of history before its current state. Although you'll note the last event of any interest really apparently was 100 years or so ago, where a lot of the town of Bogenhafen was sacked by an invading greenskin horde. Although of course it was eventually rebuilt. But that's almost the last thing of any note, you notice.
Yeah, the sort of good pub guide part of this travelogue is, I have no doubt, woefully out of date. Recommending that we stop by this tavern or stay in this inn. If it's a place that was demolished by greenskins, or, well, subsequently bought out, resold, demolished, rebuilt, it's probably inaccurate. But the street names will hopefully be the same.
They should, and one thing you would definitely note is that, just from common knowledge, is that in the last 100 years, Bogenhafen has prospered greatly under the guidance of the merchant houses that currently occupy it. It has become a very, very prolific place for river trade. Made a lot of money that way. And so, the little boat, the Beribel, will begin making its way to the last canal lock early in the morning of that 4th day, getting ready to enter the proper harbour, finally, of the town of Bogenhafen. It is very early in the morning, so early that most of you are still asleep. Kruger, you fell asleep on watch. You yourself insisted on the watch after all, even on this last day, but you did find yourself nodding off, it seems. You are having a dream. Although the dream is not so much a dream, but more a memory to a time before. Not very long ago, mind you. Possibly a month ago? Just about before you even began your little journey down that road from Middenheim to Altdorf. You were in a rented-out warehouse. You and your friends were temporarily occupying it. Yes, your friends, Kruger. You had a few. Do you remember who they were, and what you were up to at the time?
I have tried to forget them. Forget everything that we were doing there. It didn't end well. It really didn't end well.
It certainly didn't. But at this time in the memory, everything was wonderful. There you were, all 10 of you, getting rather drunk. Gustav, he was your leader. You were all going to make it big. You'd all come to Middenheim. You'd even managed to get in good with the Low Kings, the name of the gangs of Middenheim. You'd done a bit of work for them, and everything was going to be nice and easy. And then Gustav himself had got a very interesting little opportunity just the day before. Apparently he'd met with some woman in a tavern, and she'd given him a ton of gold simply to watch a street for her while she went and spoke with someone. And he's come back with a ton of gold. 10 crowns. Simply for a day's work. Everyone's drinking and laughing. Gustav, a young lad like yourself, not from Middenheim originally. You think he's an Altdorfer, actually. Little bit of a beard on him. He brings you over, pats you on the back. Ah, Kruger, can you fucking believe it? Look at this! Look at this! Ha ha! 10 gold crowns! You said it wasn't true. You said it wasn't true. You're eating your words now, aren't you?
Yeah, that's crazy. I mean, how could you make so much for so little work? You're so lucky. I'm really jealous.
Hey, I'm sharing it around with my friends. Share it with my friends. What do I always say? Gustav's boys? We get the job done, don't we?
We sure do. Hey, you think there's any more of that where that came from?
Oh, I reckon so. Look, I said super easy. All I had to do, right, was watch the street. Or this woman, she went to talk with some, I don't know, some noble-looking fellow. I know, I shouldn't have peeked, but, I couldn't resist. Little peek, she didn't notice, of course.
Oh, that's lucky. I mean, I'm sure she would want her, privacy. So, who was it?
Oh, I don't bloody know. We've only been here a couple of months, don't we? I think it's one of those nobles. I think he might be someone. Hang on, Lenny. Lenny, a shorter man, comes forward. Yeah, it sounded like when you gave a description, someone. I think someone like the Graph Circle or something. Yeah, all right, the Graph Circle. Ooh, fancy. Anyway, don't worry about it, Kruger. She didn't see me. I just took a little peek, and here we go. 10 gold crowns.
Hey, well done. Well done.
Anyway, could you go and, we're out of, wine. He throws you a gold crown. Go and get us another one, would you?
Sure, I put on a big smile. I'll get you all the wine you want. And, I begin moving off to do just that.
And you did. You went off, find a bottle of wine. With a gold crown, you were able to get something pretty good. How were you feeling as you walked those streets? The streets of Middenheim. Not Altdorf, of course, but a mighty city in its own right. The walls of Middenheim aren't white and pristine, but they are extremely thick and extremely strong. City of the White Wolf, they call it. Largely because it's one of the only places in the Empire where they disagree that Sigmar is the greatest of gods. They say Ulrich is still the greatest of gods, and even though they respect Sigmar, there's always been a little religious tension there.
Yeah, I've never cared too much about the religion, but the city, it has a lot of opportunities. It has that dirt, that darkness, those streets with all the opportunities that they present to folks like us. And hey, if what Gustav was able to make happen, if there's more opportunities like that out there, we're gonna be in a really good situation really, really soon, and maybe we'll be able to take less risks, just enjoy life. Maybe not even do something illegal for a while. That would be something.
You return to the warehouse. It's late at night, of course, at this point. You notice the door is ajar. You didn't leave the door ajar when you left.
I immediately begin to feel some apprehension. Isn't how it's supposed to be. They're not usually this careless. I make sure I have my dagger at the ready, just in case, as I approach.
You enter. The lights are all off. The torches have been shut off, it seems. You smell blood in the air. This building you were in had a little downstairs area, but you were all upstairs. At least that's where your friends were when you last saw them.
This is not good. I quietly make my way through the warehouse. I'm trying to not get distracted by the smell of blood, but something must have happened. I hope they're all right. I'll try to make my way upstairs.
You move upstairs. Notice it's very dark up here. You can't see anyone, at least not in the dark. Do you try and maybe quickly light a torch again? You know where they are.
First I listen. I try to see, is there anyone here? I just listen for any kind of sound that would alert me to the fact that I would not be alone here. Do I hear anything?
You don't hear any movement, but you do hear a dripping sound.
I will light one of the torches then. I don't think I'm going to like what I will see, but I have to see. I have to make sure that they are all right.
They are not all right. They're all dead. 3 or 4 bodies are just strewn across the floor. There's old Greg, his head's been caved in. Sammy, Samantha, gutted inside there. They've been brutally killed. There's blood everywhere. And at the headpiece of this gruesome scene, you think is Gustav, but you can't really tell because he's the one who's dripping. The blood is dripping from his face, where his face used to be, because it has been cut off. His face has been cut off. This is a nightmare. This isn't real. You've had a few drinks already. Maybe you've fallen asleep and had a nightmare. What do you do, Kruger?
I think I dropped the torch, and my fight or flight response just goes fully into flight. I have to get out of here. This is going to be me. This is going to be me if I don't get the hell out of here.
And run you did. You ran quite far, didn't you, Kruger?
I ran away from Middenheim, didn't I?
You did indeed. You don't know what happened. You don't know why it happened. But you do know that you were gone for 30-40 minutes. And everyone you had got to know. And your little new adventure was dead. Very dead. The dream focuses on Gustav's corpse. On that face. That cut-off face. And it's there you wake up suddenly, watching the boat start to pull in to Bogenhafen.
And I immediately begin looking around. Oh my. Are they watching us? I begin spying around just to see if we are being watched.
No one's watching you. Well, other than the gate guards as you pass through the canal lock. No, it's sunny and bright, and somewhere in the distance you can hear the sound of people enjoying themselves. A lot of people enjoying themselves. It's a harsh contrast to the dream you just had.
Yeah. I try to calm down. I take some deep breaths, and I tell myself that That wasn't real. I mean, it was real, but it's not real anymore. It's something that happened. They are dead. They died because Gustav made a mistake. He shouldn't have done that. He should not have looked at the person that noblewoman was meeting. These things happened. He had to be silenced. There was a reason, there was a logic. This did not happen by accident. But I did not see who it was. And, I mean, I did hear a name, but surely they wouldn't know that I knew. Surely they wouldn't care to come after me. They didn't come after me, up until now at least. There are other people looking for me, but not these people. Oh, there's just too many people looking for me. I tried to just shake it all off, and I just try to focus in on us arriving at Bogenhafen. There are opportunities here. I need to get into the head of Caster Lieberung. I will soon need to be Caster Lieberung. Yes, that's what I need to focus on.
Siegfrieda, you aren't on watch, of course. You were down in the moderate comfort at least, of one of the beds that was made up in the bottom area of the Beribel. You'll soon be waking, but of course you were dreaming as well. Not that you'll ever know, but similar to Kruger, your dream isn't really a dream. It's also a memory. A memory of a time long ago. You were nothing but a girl of 15 or 16. The surgery where you were working was not in the city of Middenheim, but it was close by, a small little hamlet known as Schonighagen. Again, largely just a traveller's town for people coming and going to the great city, but important enough to at least have a small doctor's surgery. The memory is of a time when you were in mid-floor mop, and your caretaker, Dr. Dunkirk Clapperman, suddenly gave you a command. Siegfrieda! Siegfrieda, quickly! Stop what you're doing and get the wormwort! The wormwort girl!
The wormwort. Yes, of course, Master.
Hurry up!
Of course. And I run over to the shelves of tinctures and potions, vials, and such like, trying to, I'm responsible for sorting this mess of medicine, so I should know where it is. It's not alphabetical, is it? We've divided it between different parts of the body and where the ailments would be. Head is going to be at the top. This is probably going to be a skin remedy, so that's going to be fourth shelf up, and I grab the step ladder, make my way across. Oh, fuck it, it's empty. Something like wormwort. I'm looking through the various remedies on display. Hemlock possesses some of the same properties. I grab it, slide down the ladder. I have it here, Master.
As you are rushing to do all this, you do also notice that there was a little note next to the empty container of the wormwort. E. Herzen. Due date today. That was today's date. You realise quickly that this is obviously for a customer coming in. It was obviously reserved, and well, it's not your fault that there's none there, but you are maybe concerned about what's going to happen next.
No, that incredibly wise and generous man that looks after me has probably been drinking it to help him sleep. Wormwort has some rather interesting sedative qualities that I've been noting down, and he has been testing himself, and clearly the order was put in long enough ago that he's been able to get through the entire damn bottle. So, hemlock comes with risks, yes, I'm telling myself internally, I'm not saying it aloud. Yes, it can make the stomach lining erupt and revolt against the internal organs, and it can make the patient choke on their own blood, but it can also remove various skin tags and conditions when applied topically. So let's give it a try. Here you go, Master. I pass him the small brown bottle. For Heuschober, correct?
He nods at you very dismissively before facing a woman. Yes, you remember Dr. Dunker Clapperman, a man already in his 50s by this point, extremely long nose, disgusting little bits of hair coming out of his nostrils, bald head, big spectacles. But the woman is very different from him. This is a noble woman, Siegfrieda. You can already tell from the fine clothes, the beautiful embroidery on her dress, long reddish hair, possibly in her 20s or 30s, you can't quite tell. She's looking around this little surgery with distaste, and there's a very odd smell on the air. Lavender, but very cloying lavender. Clearly this woman has caked herself in perfume. Yes, Siegfrieda, yes, the wormroot. Miss Heuschober. Sorry for the delay. Here you are. The woman turns and looks at you, briefly, with interest, and then at the doctor. Oh, yes, that's right. Would you just, put that on the scales? I didn't need a whole bottle, you recall. Oh, yes, of course. I'll look at it on the scales. Here we go. He puts it on the scales. How are you feeling, Siegfrieda? You didn't think he was going to look. He's actually going to look. Is he going to notice it is hemlock and not wormwood?
Well, the good news is his eyesight has become so terrible in the last few years that it's unlikely he'll be able to tell regardless. So my worry isn't there. My worry is what this patient will do with the medicine. And so I step over to her, and stepping above my station, I say, just ensure that you apply the medicine on the skin. Don't let it pass your lips, madam.
Well, I wasn't planning to drink it, young girl. How amusing of you to assume that.
Oh, I'm sure you wouldn't, madam. I have every... Yes, I'm sure you wouldn't. It's just some people, when they take medicine, of course, they don't know how to correctly apply it, and it's more than my profession's worth, I say, looking down at the dirty rags that I'm wearing. No, it's more than the doctor's reputation's worth to potentially sell someone a medicine only to have it take it the incorrect way. We once had someone who tried to cure an anal fistula with, and I see the doctor coming back the other way. Right, I'd better go head back now. I hope it treats you well.
The doctor comes over, handing over the hemlock very quickly. Ah, yes, Miss Heuschober, there you are. One vial of the wormwood as you ordered a few months ago. All fine. She looks at you. This woman looks at the doctor, takes the vial very quickly, and opens it, taking a small sniff. Since when did one add hemlock to wormwood, Doctor? What? Nonsense! Never, my dear lady. Well, that's odd. This smells like... What do you think, young girl? And she hands over the vial for you to smell.
Now, the question. Do I potentially embarrass my tutor and myself? Or try and bluff my way through it? I mean, these rich, well-dressed aristocrats that come to our provincial surgeries to pick up their medicines, we know that they're not really for honest illnesses. They're often to cure poxes that they've picked up from illicit liaisons or poisons that they need to kill off rivals. They don't care about us, about the academic study of medicine and curatives, and quite frankly, I have far less interest in whether they get better outside of a academic perspective. And so I give it a sniff and I say, yes, that is a hemlock-like odour. But Dr. Clapham and myself have been... We've been mixing some new potions based on new ideas that have come down all the way from the capital that treat various ailments in frankly revolutionary ways. So that's a perfectly normal odour for the most modern of medicines.
You feel a sharp pain as the stick that the doctor uses to get himself around with collides with your foot. Silence, you stupid girl! My dear lady, she's speaking nonsense. That's not what's happened at all. You've clearly got the wrong bottle, you stupid girl!
Well, perhaps I wouldn't have got the wrong bottle if the correct one hadn't been drained already. Maybe that's what happened. Maybe someone snuck in and drank the wormworts because they have a lot of problems and can't sleep due to the girth of the weight pressing down on their lungs, preventing them from drawing breath unless they are sedated at a guess.
The doctor glares at you. He raises the stick again, but then puts it back down, muttering to himself. Pox of a girl, supposed to be a help, they said. I'm nothing but a curse on my life! I'm so sorry, my lady, I'll make sure. Are you available to... She just shakes her head. She looks at you. She smirks. She's enjoying this. Siegfrieda, you remember, she enjoyed this argument. She enjoyed seeing you suffer. At least that's what you thought. What did you do next?
I curtsied, and then I bowed to my master. And I said, well, I'm terribly sorry. I put it down to my lack of learning and proper tutelage. We will do our best to obtain the medicine that you require. This was an honest mistake, I say, completely dishonestly, and I retreat without turning my back. You know, I know politeness and deference, into the storeroom before taking a deep breath and wondering at what point can I poison this old bastard and get out of here. But I put the thoughts to one side. Despite his various inadequacies, he is still a master physician. In certain respects, there's still an awful lot I can learn from him. I'm not ready to go just yet.
No, you weren't. Not for a few more years. The dream begins to end, as of course you remember, the situation was eventually resolved. He ran to the back. You were able to find a very old, spare little bit of wormwood lying around, and you were sent to run after the woman. She did, after all, not wait. And as you ran and quickly made the correct delivery, she gave you a look. She took the vial this time and remarked, "Rather a spirited young lady, aren't you? Standing up to your master, apparently. Don't you like your situation? Do you wish it changed, perhaps?"
I'm sure I can't complain about my present situation, madam, but I assure you, I wasn't intending you any harm by selling you that potion. Truthfully, if you applied it topically, it wouldn't have caused the ill effects that would have come had you ingested it. It was good advice, even if current medical thought has not caught up with that theory that I have been working on. But thank you for your kindness and your inquiry, and I do hope that you stop by our small surgery again.
Oh dear, you insult me. I'd hate to be called kind. On the contrary, if you're not happy with the way your life is going, if you wish for a change, you should make it happen, my dear. Do you believe in the gods?
Of course, madam. More powerful than any biological function or ailment is the whims of the gods. They can strike a healthy man down with a snap of their divine fingers, regardless of how well he eats and exercises. They're the true masters of our bodies and spirits.
They are indeed. And she leant down And while you don't remember it happening this way, in this dream, that perfume, that scent seems to for a moment cover everything. A great cloying scent of lavender. And if you're a good girl and you pray the right way, you never know. Maybe one day the gods will answer your call for change and grant it to you. I hope they do.
Well, thank you for the guidance, madam.
The dream begins to end. As you slowly wake up, what do you think? What do you think of why you were dreaming about that memory? What was it about that memory that sticks out to you?
I am not one for believing in the provenance of dreams meaning something, and this was certainly more of a memory than a vision. I narrow my eyes, and I start sniffing at some of the cargo. I go to the deck, taking a deep breath. Are we passing fields of lavender?
No, that as you start coming up to the deck, you realize Bogenhafen is here. You already can see the great town. You're just about to pass through the last canal lock and enter the town proper. You've reached your destination. No, nothing here smells like lavender, and again, that smell. You would recognize it again. It was so intense, so cloying. Almost the sort of smell that people put over things to cover up smells. That sort of smell.
Yeah. Well, it's certainly not unknown to cover up the smell of decomposition with lilies or lavender or the like, so I begin to regret taking in that deep breath, seeing my surroundings and identifying the flow of raw sewage into the canal. But it will have to be a mystery. Why has that memory come back to me for the first time in, 6 years, I would guess, since I ran into that strange woman? I ponder on it.
Meanwhile, before your awakening, and poor Kruger's awakening, there was one man who didn't have strange dreams. After all, he was already awake. You were charged with an early rise to get the cargo ready. Heinrich, you've been there on watch. You're watching old Greg and Captain Joseph get ready to pay the fare to get the last canal lock open, and you find yourself just seeing the town of Bogenhafen emerge. It is certainly not Altdorf, or even Middenheim, but it is a sizable town, a fine, mighty wall, several large buildings, you can see the tops of them, perhaps that's the city centre, and a lot of noise on the air. Even from here, you can hear the sound of people making merry, shouting, screaming, but pleasant screams and pleasant shouts, at least you think so.
I'm engaging in a moment of quiet reflection of my own. The exercises having been finished, I can now allow the other thoughts to enter into my head. And I spend just a second contemplating how off the rails this has all gone. How it wasn't but a few days ago that I was going to take a carriage into the big city and head off into the woods for adventure, and now I'm thinking, well, it's my third big city in, I don't know, a couple weeks. And to save for an old acquaintance, I haven't had much time to put any of the skills of mine to use. And on the one hand, I'd like to be excited by that. That isn't this the adventurer's life, going around never knowing quite where the river will take you? But on the other hand, it's getting stranger and stranger and stranger. 2 promises of crowns, neither one has panned out. And given how every time we touch shore something bad happens, especially after the last town, something bad is sure to happen, I'm actually feeling just the tiniest tinge of regret. Not for myself, and not for Siegfrieda, and not for Kruger, but for my boat family. So there's no relaxation in this moment. It's more careful watch. After what we've been through, I'm growing increasingly concerned that something untoward is going to befall the otherwise innocent, entirely enthusiastic, and overly generous crew of this ship.
It's funny you should say that, because as you're in this revelry, you notice that Walda has come and just stood beside you, crossing her arms. Walda, you're not too familiar with her from your childhood, because she seems similar in age to you and probably was a child herself at the time. But now she's a young woman in her late 20s, dark black hair, little red bandana. She's squinting a little at you, and she crosses her arms. Having a little daydream, are we, Heinrich?
I just let out a small sigh. I wish. Can't stop thinking about all the things that have happened so far. And I'm not making eye contact with her as I speak. She can see the slow scan of the riverbank, and then another one 10 or 15 feet beyond, just essentially drawing little concentric circles of awareness out from the boat as we stand.
Yes, it's all been rather strange, hasn't it? Especially your journey, because you're heading here for a big melee, you said, even though I'm pretty sure the main stuff happening at the Schaufenfest is child's play. Yes, there's the nobles having their big joust, but, you're not going to be going to that.
I don't know Walda, but I do know river folk, and it's the urge to cut to the chase. I'm not going to be so bold as to say, well, Walda, get on with it, but I'll turn and I'll arch a brow, and I'll say, is there something else you're suggesting?
She frowns, clicks her teeth a little, looks at the town coming up on the horizon. I'm just wondering if there's something you forgot to mention to Joseph. I feel, you knew him well, and you're one of us. Everything just seems a little odd. You said your friend had some run-in with some people in Outdorf, but it's odd that they keep chasing you. You're not hiding something, are you?
What kind of riverman would I be if I put you all in danger without telling you about it? I've given everyone as much information as I have.
She squints. She nods. I reckon you have. It's just strange is all. Anyway, what are you planning to do next? You go to the melee? You win some coin? Surely that's not the end game. Weren't you supposed to be off in places like Outdorf, entering proper competitions, being all big and fancy? She seems to ease off a little here. She's not being hostile, more inquisitive.
Oh, you'd think, wouldn't you? And I'm going to put just a hint of frustration in my voice, not directed at Walda, but to serve the next few sentences out of my mouth. My companions have their own goals, their own places to be, and we're just doing our best to see if we can accomplish those at the same time. And I want to carry out that small amount of frustration to make it seem to Walda that, yeah, I'm not super happy to be here either, but part of whatever deal I have with Siegfrieda and with Kruger means that we're kind of moving together. So yes, you're absolutely right. I would rather be in Altdorf. I would rather be anywhere than Bogenhafen, no offense. But sometimes the boat goes where it needs to go, right? Sometimes the crew takes you where they need to go to.
Well, listen, if you are in the mood for boat travel, obviously Joseph will take you anywhere you want to go, especially after this. But maybe if you're heading back that way, you should think of stopping by one of the towns of... I don't know, I'm trying to think, because I think we ran into your folks a few weeks ago, And they weren't doing so well. I'm just saying, maybe if you do get some of that big money... I know your dad isn't the sort to admit it, but they could use some help.
Not to mention that my parents, all pretense drops, and my attention for the first time pulls away from the shorelines. What's wrong with my father?
Well, nothing wrong with your pa and ma. It's more that finance has been a bit rough on them. I could tell. We saw them just a week or so before we even got into Outdorf, and I reckon he was hiding it well, but something had gone a bit wrong with one of their deliveries. He said he was making a trip to bloody Wichtendorf for some noble, and, no one goes down that way anymore without good reason.
Wichtendorf. That's so much riskier than... Thank you, Walda. On the one hand, I'm quite happy that her information did not lead to the road of some other people I've met who've fallen upon hard times in the woods, transforming into God knows what. But I'm also not thrilled at the idea of my family. They said this was going to happen when I left, right?
Yes, and I mean, I'm sure it's all fine. It's just, that river down to Null, not many people stop off there anymore. Not since there was that plague 5 years ago. I mean, that place is... Most of us avoid it these days when we travel down to Null that way.
Which means they're desperate. And it's sadness creeping up in my voice because... my parents were always, I won't say enthusiastic, but they were understanding of the goals that I had, of the things I wanted to pursue. But there were still rumors around our little community about what happens when a son abandons his father, when you lose one skilled hand on the barge, and I'm going to try to keep that off my face. I don't want Walda to think that she's filled me with some kind of guilt or need for penance, but that doesn't mean it's not there.
She gives you a firm nod and moves over to give you a little slap on the back. Well, again, I didn't mean to make you unhappy. I'm just saying that maybe if you are in the area, there's a few places between there and Outdoor. Maybe you can just, if you win a few competitions, like, I'm sure you'll need all the coin, but maybe you could just make it a surprise, Oh, hey, I happen to have some coin on me. He'd never ask you for it.
No, of course not. At this point, I'll return the slap on the back and say, and hey, if Kruger and Sigfrida, they've gotten to pick the last 2 towns, I'd say it's my turn, huh?
Well, hopefully you won't have to go all the way to bloody Wickendorf. I mean, that's a very far away from here. They should be, and to be fair, they should be done there by now anyway. This was, they should be heading back, probably via Camperbad or something.
All I meant to say is that we've run errands for the 2 of them. Now maybe it's my turn.
She smiles and nods, and again, she seems fine for now. How do you feel, though? After all, you weren't being entirely truthful. There is something you're hiding. She almost noticed.
There is, and the only thing keeping me together at the moment is hoping that it's going to resolve itself one way or another. Either we'll come on shore here and be able to deal with whoever's following us in a more permanent way than last time, or we'll leave the boat here and then they can proceed onward without us, so whatever is stalking us won't be stalking them. I'm riding this edge. It's a gamble. It's a double down. If I can just get one more good day or 2 more good days, then this problem will go away, and I'm spinning the plates, or juggling, I suppose, is the more apt metaphor for the period. I'm just hoping that nothing else enters the fray before I have a chance to solve 1 or 2 problems. I don't want to put them at risk, but I also don't want them to worry. And at this point, I've also kind of gotten a little deep into the lie. It'd be a different story if I told them up front, oh hey, my friend here is pretending to be somebody else so we can get tons and tons of money, and we can all have a jolly good riverfolk laugh about getting one over the nobles. But it didn't start that way, and it's a bit too late, at least by my read, to go back on that.
It's as you think these thoughts that finally we arrive at the town of Bogenhafen. The boat goes past that canal lock and begins riding into the town itself. In Bogenhafen, this part of the River Reich runs straight through the town. Most of the town is on the east of the river, with a smaller part on the west. You begin docking at one of the many wharfs, Hagen's Wharf in this example. The boat docks, things are unloaded, you look to the docks themselves. There are not a lot of people for this time of morning, it's true, but there are enough stevedores, enough boat hands, enough merchants getting onto new boats, leaving boats, that even you, Kruger, would have to admit if someone was going to attack you with a crossbow bolt right now, it would be very, very obvious. as you are docking, Captain Joseph gathers all three of you together and nods. Well, my friends, for now, the journey has come to an end. Now, obviously, I'm going to be in town for the next few days. If you do need anything, just let me know. And if the event goes well, Heinrich, well, then again, if you want to go back to Altdorf, I'll be here. But for the moment, I've got my lads. They can do what they need to do to get the boats, to get the crates in down to, well, we're dealing with, what's his name again? Rugbroder? Old Grim just nods. Yeah, there we go, Rugbroder. You know, the merchant families around here, that's where I'm making my deliveries. If I were you, I would enjoy myself. Be careful, of course, I know all that business, but we're in Bogenhafen now. It just, it's the day. If some ne'er-do-wells try and attack you, or the city watcher only a few calls away. If I were you, I'd head to the Schaffenfest. That's where there'll be, well, I assume that's where that melee will be, and you never know, might be some other opportunities. What do you say, friends?
Well, that's very generous of you, and, well, to be honest, everything that you've done for us has been inspired with generosity. And please don't take this as an offence, and I look to my companions. We, I'm sure, would be delighted to spend more time in your company, but given the events that occurred just 4 days ago, just keep your head down for a while. Obviously make your sales and, pursue your business, but us being in your company may bring danger to your door and to those of your crew. We should probably resolve that issue before we start embarking on new adventures together.
Aye, well, I suppose you should. But again, Miss Siegfried, don't think anything of it. Heinrich is one of us, and he says you two are good. That makes you two one of us, and we don't abandon our own. I'm going to make my sales, and if I see any people with crossbows, well, they'll have to answer to my own crossbow.
Well, you know what they say, the only person who can stop a bad guy with a crossbow.
Exactly. But don't worry. I heed your warning. We'll be discreet. We'll be quiet. Besides, I reckon... Look around you. Bogenhafen. A lot of people here. I'm sure if there's a suspicious-looking individual with a crossbow following you, you'll notice. At least during the day. Maybe we'll all be careful at night.
Yes, I think that's a good idea.
Yeah, we'll be careful. Thank you so much for everything. I don't know what else to say. Just thank you. You've been so incredibly generous.
Think nothing of it, lad. Bloody hell, Heinrich. Is this what all these city folk are like? Don't know genuine decency when they see it?
Every single one of them. It's exhausting. And I'll toss them a little wink.
I bet it is. And hey, just in case you can't find anywhere nice in town to stay, you know where the boat is? Just saying. Free lodging.
Always appreciated.
With that, he gives you a firm handshake, Heinrich, and begins to get ready his boat to do his trade. The question now is, what do the three of you do? You have arrived in the town of Bogenhafen. It is early morning, and already you can hear those sounds. Somewhere, from the east, you think, an awful lot of people apparently having a very good time, even at this time of day.
I suppose there's no harm in having a look at the Schaffenfest before we take action.
Lighter business than the darker business. I'll pat my hand against the pouch hanging just off my hip. Besides, this is getting awfully heavy to carry around.
Yes, we should find some time to enjoy ourselves, shouldn't we? At least see what entertainments are on store. My eyes are darting left and right. I'm just trying to take in everything around me, matching it to words I've seen written. What monuments do I recognise? What streets do I know? We should definitely take the time to get our bearings in this place. And I hate to sound over-paranoid, given what I just said to our friends on the boat, but we really ought to work out our best means of escape before we start embedding ourselves too deeply in this town. If things go sideways, we need to know the quickest way out, ideally via a stable or dock.
That is good thinking. It's very possible that they will find us again. I mean, they seem to have a real talent for that.
Well, I mean, they are, let's be clear, looking for you. I think that cannot be the only solution. They're not going to be looking for me. It's all got to be to do with our grand plan, which I know I voiced concerns about, so I won't do it again, other than to say that, but if they are so dead set on capturing, killing, or doing worse to you, then I am confident that, given that they know the way the river flows, they could have taken, I've still not decided on rode or ridden their horses at full tilt to get here before we did. If they know the roads well.
That is certainly possible. We'll have to keep our eyes open. Try not to arouse any suspicion.
Well, no, the best way to not arouse suspicion is to try and have a good time, isn't it? We should enjoy some of the festivities and blend in with the locals. Have either of you been here before?
This is my first time in Bogenhafen. Or is it?
It is.
Yes. Never had the privilege of visiting this fine town, which is perhaps for the best given what we're here to do. What about you, Heinrich?
I make a face that's a little bit incredulous. You all know better than this. Of course I haven't been here. Did you see how I behaved in front of the Emperor? No. What have I done so far that makes you think I'm well-traveled?
And so your conversation for the moment will peter off as all three of you begin making your way from Hagen's Wharf, finding the biggest central street you can, and heading east towards the sounds of merriment and laughter. The Schaffenfest awaits.
You have listened to an episode of Red Moon Roleplaying, where we play the legendary campaign The Enemy Within for Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay 4th Edition, published by Cubicle 7. In this first part of the series, we are tackling Book 1, Enemy in Shadows. Joining us as players in this series are none other than Aaron Hammonds from Queen's Court Games and our dear friend Matthew Dawkins. The music was made by Flowers for Body Snatchers, Wordclock, Metatron Omega, Ager Sonus, Apocryphus, Halgrath, and Northumbria, featuring a number of collaborations with other artists, and was used with permission from their label, Cryochamber. Check out their website at cryochamber.bandcamp.com or their YouTube channel for some moody dark ambient. We would like to give massive thanks to our champions of the Red Moon, Martin Heuschober, Nastasia Raulerson, Simon Cooper, David, Julián, Camilla, Bob Lange, Julián, Cameron, Xabier, and Antxon for their generous support. And we would of course also like to thank all of our other patrons. Without your support, the show would not be possible. If you want to support our work, please check us out on Patreon. You can get access to bonus campaigns for Cult Divinity Lost and Coriolis there, as well as get early and raw access to all of our recordings. You can also hear your name read on the show as the champion of the Red Moon, as well as play Cult with us. Most importantly, that support is what keeps the show going, so do check us out there. Thank you again for listening, and remember, Skaven are definitely not real.